piece of really trying to build those bonds with our current team, be really objective in assessing what do we need, what do we lack that can only be brought to the program through new players. And so certainly a big emphasis on just looking at strengths and weaknesses, looking at immediate needs, looking at 3-year plans, and just where do we want to be in the future, what are we going to recruit towards, and then what are the things that are the most important at our university in terms of a student athlete. What do you have to be a great student at Clemson University? So a lot of discovery along those lines, and the benefit of our position is there's so many people around us who are doing it exceptionally well. So many established programs and coaches that have done an outstanding job of attracting not only great ball players in their respective sports, but the type of student that excels here, and the type of person that fits into the community, the Clemson family really well.
You obviously have some great recruiting relationships from your time at Florida. How does it change being at Clemson? Do you just go back into those same doors, or is it different being at a Florida and a Clemson?
Well, I tell you, one of the big advantages, certainly my time at Florida lended a lot of new relationships and connections in the Southeast and recruiting to the Southeastern Conference. But my time at Charlotte and living in North Carolina and relationships and bonds that were established during my time there have also been really, really critical in reestablishing our recruiting base here, trying to create a footprint, and we've said from the very beginning we wanted to guard our yard. We want local kids to want to come to Clemson. So all of that has been just really fun. It's been really neat. It's been a warm welcome from all the coaches, the summer coaches, the AAU coaches, the high school coaches in this area, and it's been really enjoyable to reconnect with different colors on.
Amanda, when it comes to recruiting, how do you, as a new coach, no history here, how do you sell that vision to a recruit as you go into their home, and what do you tell them about Clemson as you're learning yourself?
Well, I think there's an opportunity whenever there's something new to be part of something new, to establish something, to create a new era, and to put your own fingerprints and stamp on a program. And so I think great competitors are often compelled with that vision. The easy part of recruiting, if there is an easy part of recruiting, is this university is tremendous. The alumni here, the Clemson family, the vibe on campus when we bring kids to a volleyball game and they go in Jervy and it is just sold out and crazy in there. The vibe on a football weekend of all the folks that are here tailgating, those things really sell themselves. And so I think the vision in terms of our specific program is this is a place we know we can win. It's been done before. It's been proven we can win ACC championships at Clemson University. It's just a matter of the right who's. Who are the people that want to come in and have the confidence and the guts to do something for the reestablishing something that's not already just kind of up and running. And so those are the type of competitors and the type of families that we're looking for.
Another question is on your team itself. A lot of coaches like to describe their team as a brand. What would you brand your style of basketball like?
My style as a coach, I would say it's just, it's aggressive. We want to be really good through our toughness. We want to be really good through our relationships and the way that we're connected as a group of people. And, and that's what we're going to make the game about. We're going to try to make our competitions about the things that we think make our group of women special. And so my ideas about basketball are kind of secondary to what are their strengths. And how can we showcase those strengths? How can we set them up for success based on what we know that the competition is going to be like, in particular in our league?
How much does the opportunity to play in the ACC help you with recruiting, and how much of a challenge does that schedule present you?
Well, it's a challenge. There's no question about that. But kind of going back to what I said earlier, when you're looking to start something new, when you're embarking on establishing a new era, and you're looking for a certain type of competitor, we want the type of competitor that's really interested in being in the best league, that's really interested in finding out how good am I, excuse me, measured against the best in the country. And and that was the ACC coming off of last year with the national champion, half of the Final Four coming from our league, and the leading RPI team in league in the country. So those are, the people that we want to attract to Clemson. They're going to be excited about those opportunities and those challenges. Not necessarily where Clemson finished last year, what Clemson's done over the last 5 or 10 years, but what can I bring to Clemson, and what does it mean to compete in the ACC especially if it's someone who has professional aspirations on the basketball court.
And not only do you have the ACC, but you've got Dawn down the road, and she's built a national power. You're used to going head-to-head with her. Does the dynamic change at all?
I don't think so. I mean, you know, I've got great respect for Dawn and her staff and what she's done there, and I think it's really just a huge benefit for us, because the thing that they've done is made women's basketball, girls basketball in South Carolina more important than it ever has been. And so I think we're going to be the benefactor of that some. It's just our job now to compete and to try to close the gap between what they've done and where they are and where we are.
Do you go into it saying, obviously you're not going to compete against Dawn and some of these other schools right away, but when you put together your plan, you say 3 years is where we want to kind of get to that level to where we're going head-to-head with the same recruits and beating them on the floor?
You know, well, I kind of, you know, jump back at you and say, you know, we do want to compete with those people right away. You know, I think that competing and competing well is what we're really focused on right now as a staff and as a team. We're not going to go into any game this year, and we have a really challenging schedule this year, even outside of the ACC schedule. We're not going into any game thinking it'll be okay if we lose this one. We're going to go into every single game hoping to put our best foot forward and compete like champions and hope that the result ends up in a way that favors us. And that's the same way we're approaching recruiting as well. You know, if someone says, no, I'm not interested, okay, we'll move on to the next person. But we're going to identify people that we think fit really well with our culture, with the Clemson culture, with our university, and pursue them, you know, with a lot of passion and with that really clarity around that vision, and see where it lands. But we're not going back down.
Who are a couple players you're going to build around this year who are going to be, you know, those go-to players?
You know, I've been really pleased with our seniors and the way that they've responded to transition, to newness, a new way of doing things, which is probably very different to what they experienced in the past. Different voices, different set of expectations, and I think that, you know, those people deserve a great senior year, and I think they're working hard to create that for themselves. So I've been really, really pleased with our seniors who are really competing and training with that urgency that you have in your last year of college eligibility, and I hope they can sustain that and get some of those wins that I think will help them feel really good as they lead Clemson.
Amanda, do you, I mean, maybe it happened before you took the job or maybe right after the job, you got the job. Do you have to look back and say, well, let me see why Clemson has not been successful these 15, 16 years, and let me try and find out what has to change? Or do you throw out the past and just say, you know, we're going at it from a plan that has worked for me in the past?
I think there's a little bit of everything, but I think much more of our emphasis is not more of like what mistakes were made in the past, but what do we need to capitalize on? What are the benefits of this program that don't exist in other programs? What are the things that separates Clemson University from other universities? And let's really dwell on those things, the opportunities that exist, not necessarily dwelling on mistakes. You know, I think whatever mistakes were made in the past, and you know, mistakes are made everywhere, every year. I think you really have to be inside of those programs to know the dynamics that are around them, and so we're a lot more interested in what can we make go right as opposed to what do we need to avoid to fall into some pitfalls. And there's a long list. There's a long list of positive things that we really need to dwell on, that we really need to elevate to another level and make important in the way we're doing things.
It hasn't been that long from your time in Florida to here, but have you noticed anything? Did anything stand out at you as having changed in the landscape of women's basketball?
Oh, geez. You know, it's just getting better every year. I mean, you know, that's the thing. It's just every year the game is just getting a little bit more athletic, a little more fast. The coaching's getting a little bit better, and that's a great trend. And I'm really, really happy to be part of that and be part of women's basketball and trying to not just elevate Clemson and help us compete for championships, but, you know, in a broader sense, make sure that we're still doing what's good for the game as someone who gets a chance to be the person who's sitting in the head coach's seat. I think that's part of all of our responsibilities.
How much did spending time with Brad Stevens help you as a coach? And then did you have a moment through there where you went, wow, you know, when I get my next job, this is what I'm going to take back?
Yeah, that was pretty much every day. I did spend last year one stop, probably the most amount of time with Brad and his staff and that whole organization, which were tremendous. But there was pretty much every day where I was just like, you know, this is amazing. And everybody who, you know, feels the same way I do about basketball and chooses it as your profession should get a chance to learn like this, because it was a tremendous experience. But that wasn't just limited to Brad. You know, Stan Van Gundy and his staff, and Billy Donovan, Mark Dagnall, all the G League coaches that, you know, I got to have conversations with, and you know, just the different people in the organizations that were willing to spend time with me and answer my endless list of questions that I had about what made them special, what made them great, how they did things, why they did things the way that they did them, from choosing players to prioritizing things on draft day to who they hire in support staff. And it was just a tremendous, overwhelming, at times, learning experience, where it did. At the end of every day, I kind of laid my head on the pillow and just counted my blessings, because I knew I'd learned something new every single day.
What made you want to go on that tour?
What, say again?
What made you want to do that? What made you say, hey, I'm going to go and pick the brain of these guys and do this?
You know, there was a few different things. I didn't know what the year in particular was going to hold for me professionally, but very quickly it became apparent that it was going to be a year that was going to be unlike any other year I'd ever had. And I did feel a lot of pressure to not blow it. You know, I was like, I've got to do things that I'll never be able to do again, that a college coaching schedule just doesn't allow for. And so I really felt very compelled to try to get into spaces that would give me a view of basketball that I'd never seen before. You know, I really just wanted to have a different lens in the way practices were run, the way things were taught. Obviously, there's a lot of different concepts in the NBA, and it wasn't just limited to the NBA either. You know, I studied a lot of men's basketball in particular, because most of my career and my basketball life has been around women's basketball. So I wanted to see where were the differences, if there were differences, and can those differences make me better as an individual, as a communicator, as a teacher. And you know, so that's kind of what the genesis of the idea was. And then there were just a tremendous amount of people that were very generous with their time and their knowledge, and opened their doors to me. And again, the thing that I think the wow, you know, said it's kind of the wow factor in terms of what I was learning. The wow factor that was so enriching, you know, which wasn't as much of a major discovery, but really just kind of fortification of how important relationships are, and how good people, you know, are out there in the world, and especially if you just ask. And so I just was really the benefactor of that. A lot of great relationships that you know, I'm really thankful for.
Forgive me if you answered this question already, but how much does the success of the Clemson athletic program as a whole help you? And then maybe on the other side, is there a pressure that comes with that?
Well, I think when you're at a place like this and you play in a league like this, there's just a certain level of expectation, or you shouldn't be here. And so I don't think that really feels as much like pressure as it is, you know, this is where I want to be, and this is where I want to test myself. And, you know, we talked about that a little bit in terms of players who are going to join our program and players who are already in our program. When you choose to compete in this league and join this university, there's a standard that you agreed to by choosing this university, and that's something we're really proud of. So that don't really feel like pressure. That just feels like, man, this is what I get to do. I want to blow it out of the water. The other side of it, though, the positive of all the programs that we're surrounded by, you know, in particular, right across that practice court, watching, you know, Brad and his staff and getting to watch them practice, are just a tremendous blueprint for us to follow and learn from, in terms of how to do things the right way, what winning looks like at Clemson, what being successful as a student athlete and as a coaching staff looks like at Clemson. We have tremendous examples all the way around us, you know, from new staffs, you know, that relatively new, like in volleyball, and the energy and the excitement around what they're doing this year. You know, too, already mentioned Brad, and then obviously, you know, football and Dabo, our soccers. I mean, you know, there's just those relationships, those conversations, and those examples of how to do it really, really well at Clemson are tremendous assets for me and my staff.
How will you measure success in year one, and I guess what would you consider a successful season?
Yeah, you know, I don't know that this is going to change from year one to year two to year three. You know, we're going to measure success in terms of improvement. Are we getting better? Are we still going to be improving in January? Are we still going to find ways to get better in February? And that's not just limited on the court. Are we getting better culturally? Are we getting better as students? Are we getting better as members of this Clemson community in a way that makes our basketball program more attractive to future people? You know, and you know, wins and losses are tricky. You know, I think it's impossible and probably foolhardy to say, hey, it's, you know, success will be 20 wins or what, because man, we could have a really successful 15-win season. We could have a really successful 12-win season. You know, so I don't think that the measure is going to be always on the scoreboard. It's going to be in terms of how hard are we working, and then how are we applying that in a way that collectively makes us better. Are we staying on track towards graduation? Are we doing the things that we need to do off the court? But really, I go back to that initial statement: are we getting better every day? That's what we want to do. And if we can at the end of the year look back on that and say we improved every day. Our November was better than our October, and you know, we went into the conference tournament still improving. Well, daggum, that's going to be a lot of success.
Going back to your tour for a second, where you bounced around, how soon after you left Florida did it start, and then how did you set everything up? Are you just shooting these guys a text, or are you going through like channels? How did you?
Well, it was a little bit of everything. You know, I try to live my life, you know, as a life of faith, and so I rely heavily on the counsel of wise people, you know, because I think that's what we're supposed to do. And so I had a lot of conversations with people who are a lot smarter than me, and you know, I've had success in different ways, and just said, hey, if you had this opportunity, what would you do with it? And got a lot of great suggestions and advice and connections through those conversations. But it happened, you know, pretty immediately. You know, we started thinking about what's next and how can we grow and how can we maximize this? How can we be grateful in this space that we're in this year and really use it to be better a year from now?
So the plan was to take a year and go through this, learn, improve, and then look for another job. You were going to get back into women's basketball, into coaching, no matter what.
I was definitely. I think that, you know, one of the, you know, the platforms that I'm supposed to be standing on top of is as a coach. I think that's kind of one of the things that, you know, God's directed my path to do. I will be honest though, I wasn't 100% sure that was going to be college women's basketball, and that was also a really neat journey to go in all these different practices, have all these different conversations with coaches, whether they be NBA or G League or college men or other college women's coaches, at all levels, and just discover how much basketball there is out there, and you know, what is going to be the next best fit for me, what's going to be the right thing. And so I really had an open mind, and to kind of go through that journey, and then for this opportunity to present itself and for the fit to be so right, I think it kind of validated all of that it was, you know, we did make the right decisions about who to talk to, where to go, how to learn, that, you know, again, it was just kind of part of a plan that I can't take credit for. You know, I think a lot of it was, this is what was supposed to happen, and I'm just really happy about it.
You brought in a lot of familiar faces in your coaching staff. How happy are you, I guess, with the overall staff? I think a lot of diversity too among the staff and experience.
Definitely so. I'm thrilled with our staff. I mean, I think we have a great collection of human beings who happen to also be great recruiters, great teachers of the game, great relationally in the way they connect with folks. You know, and then varied pasts. You know, Joy having experience in the ACC and having a few other stops along her coaching journey and playing journey. Same thing with Daniel. You know, same thing with Shimmy and Shelly, my director of ops, and Aaron, our video guy, and Jerry D, who's our director of quality control. And you know, on down the line, we've got a little bit of NBA. We've got a little bit of men's basketball pass. We've got playing at the highest level. We've got championships in there. You know, we've just got a little bit of everything that hopefully will not just be great coaches, but will serve our group of women that we get the honor and privilege of being part of this part of their journey for these 4 or 5 years really well. And then we have a little bit of fun. We happen to, you know, be the type of people, I think, that really enjoy each other, enjoy what we're doing, and, you know, really love that this is our life's calling, and that we're right now in this moment all here together. And I think it makes it special as well.